What's up? A to Z Sports here, live on a Monday. Happy March to everybody as the NFL draft season rolls on. The NFL Combine is wrapping up in Indianapolis, and the Titans are wasting no time at all of taking the next step in their NFL draft evaluation process after being in Indianapolis all last week for the NFL Combine and reacting to it now. All of the different rumors and notes and things that came out of Indy at the Combine, we will discuss throughout the first half of this week. And then by the time the week's over, the Titans will start to have some of these top draft prospects in Nashville for their 30 visits. We are live today, Jeff, as I've talked about last week. We had to do some recorded shows from the NFL Combine because of their morning interview schedule with all those big prospects. So back live this week, and that was just a 1 week thing for everybody. So going to have a great conversation today and talk about the perfect trade timeline for the Titans and the number one overall pick. How many teams do we think are interested? We think we know the number one team that has the most interest, but we'll go through that. We'll also talk about the news that just came out and find out if we can figure out when the best time is to move off the number one pick, if the Titans, in fact, want to move off of the number one pick. Then we've got the age game to wrap up this Monday show. Zach, welcome in. Hope you had a good weekend and a good week last week. Let's get this thing off and rolling.
Yeah, a lot to get to, a lot to unpack as free agency is right around the corner and the Combine is now in the rear view as we kind of maneuver through the offseason, the Titans offseason with number one overall pick. So getting you guys involved on this Monday, we are broadcasting live on 3 different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Make sure you're locked in. We will tweet out segment by segment, link by link on our Twitter/X handle at A to Z Sports. So if you're a Titans fan, make sure you follow us at A to Z Sports on X. If you're an NFL fan overall, we've got at A to Z Sports NFL. We got you locked in there across league-wide coverage over there on our X/Twitter handle. On YouTube, what's going on, YouTubers? You guys need to subscribe if you have not already subscribed. That's one out of the 3 things that you need to do on YouTube. The second thing is like this video. It helps distribution. It gets more people involved, more people in the chat, which means more opinions, which means better conversation. And then the third thing is ringing the bell. There's a bell icon on YouTube. When we go live, you guys get notified. That is very valuable in the off season, whether it is, we saw some pre-recorded stuff last week. We've got live shows all this week, morning and prime time, and everything in between, especially when news breaks. Who knows what's going to happen? If they Titans trade away the number one overall pick, if they don't, if they sign a quarterback in free agency, you can get all that information, including our live streaming shows, by having live alerts on YouTube. Facebook, what's going on, Facebookers? Bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing, as we say on this show. So share the show around. When you pop up in your Facebook friends' news feed. And let's get this party started on a Monday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports here live on a Monday. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. We're Nashville's on-demand sports network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors. They make it happen for us, and they help out all of you. Like our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon and save money at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, they are the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, boneandjointtn.org. And our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law, crash can change a life forever, but help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. And another shout out to Bart Durham Injury Law, because they were the great sponsor of all of our NFL Combine coverage. So golf claps all around for Bart Durham Injury Law and Blair Durham and his team over there. We appreciate that, because I will tell you what, Sam and Easton, I think, averaged about 4 hours of sleep each night throughout, because they were up early because they had to do the Combine interviews. They're in Eastern time. Players were getting to the convention center at like 7 a.m. Central Time for interviews. And so they had to get there early. They stayed up late because they were working the night scene in Indy, trying to get all the sources and the info. And Easton will join the show tomorrow, and we'll talk about all of the insights and the nuggets of information that he had obtained when the sun went down in Indianapolis. And we'll do that throughout the week. But Zach, we've got a lot of things to discuss. because a lot of stuff happens at the combine, and this is the Monday morning after it. We're trying to sift through everything. It's lying season. It's, spring break for the NFL was last week. So everybody's got juice and got tea to share. So the first thing that comes out last night was that the Titans are wasting no time in taking the next step in their evaluation process with the number 1 overall draft pick. And from everything I heard from Sam and Easton at the combine, is everybody was asking them. They were very popular this past week because every other team in the NFL wants to know what the Titans are thinking with the number 1 overall pick. There's trade rumors, all this stuff we'll get to. But this is from Albert Breer, who kind of organizes this overall, talking about the top talent of the draft and what the Titans are trying to do, and how the Titans' decision is boiling down to 4 players: Cam Ward, Shadour Sanders, Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter. And the Titans are already speeding up that process. 3 of the 4 will be in Nashville over this next week for their 30 visits. Ward will be at the facility on Friday. Sanders will get to town next Sunday night with his visit a week from yesterday. And then Carter will visit Thursday. Travis Hunter is slated to come in town a couple weeks later. He's got scheduling reasons coming up, and the pro day for Travis Hunter in Colorado is not until April. So, Zach, when we were on our pre-show call this morning with the others, it does feel very rare that a team is having their 30 visits, which they can only have 30 of these in-person visits at your own facility that last the entire day. They're doing a lot of work here before free agency gets going and bringing in the top guys. This is not something that we typically see. Normally, these 30 visits happen after free agency, kind of coinciding with pro day schedules and throughout the month of April. But the Titans are not wasting any time at all getting some of these guys in here.
Real quick, there's 4 guys. Do you want to be first or last or in the middle? When do you want to arrive? If you, all 4 of them want to be the number 1 overall pick, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that matters. I mean, they just talked to the guys at the combine in the order that the combine sent them through. So, like, the quarterbacks last because the quarterbacks are working out on Saturday because they can get more TV viewers and butts in the seats in Indy on Saturday for those workouts. But they talked to Abdul Carter first, then Travis Hunter second, and then the quarterbacks 3rd and 4th. So I don't think it matters. Like, Shadour Sanders got the number 1 impression, the first overall impression, because he was in the Shrine Bowl, and that is interesting. And maybe we'll talk about that as the week develops. But I don't think it matters now moving forward on first impression, last impression, middle impression. I think the Titans are just trying to get in there and figure out, what these guys are.
Yeah, well, and now you've had more touches, right? You like these, they're not a mystery. I mean, they didn't throw at the combine, but that was expected, right? They're protected, but I feel like the relationship and personality is now starting to be uncovered with these meetings, with as many times as they have actually seen them. They obviously have pro days, but look, I think this is a unique draft. Every draft is different. Some is just, hey, the Bears, we knew that they were going with Caleb Williams. They told us that by their actions, and you didn't have to worry about it. You also had a couple of years ago when they traded to the Panthers for Bryce Young. That was early. That was slotted. They know that was going to – Trevor Lawrence, that was going to be the number 1 overall pick. This is unique, and I don't know if – look, good, bad, indifferent, but you've got a quarterback-needy team that is undecided on the best quarterback. There's a mystery around this, and you're a product of each draft class and where you pick. The Titans are number 1 overall. There is not just this number 1 guy that you can check the box on. Yeah. And so it makes a new general manager's job that much more difficult, and an offensive-minded head coach in Brian Callahan that much more difficult because of the lack of longevity in the not-for-long league. And you got to get this right, and it's got to be quick. We are now type players. We saw Jaden Daniels go from 2nd worst team picking number 2 overall to the NFC Championship game. That is wild, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't help fans be patient. And so that's why I think, the homework is important. You got to do it early. You got to do it often. But I think the timeline is just the product of the players that are at the top of this draft, right? And I think it's also telling of if you are going to trade this pick, how far down maybe are you willing to go?
Yeah.
You know?
And when does it happen, right? Because and we're about to talk through the timeline. That's the main chunk of the show is the timeline. But let's go ahead and hear from Mike Borgonzi, Titans' new GM, who was asked last week a lot of different questions and many times about the trade options and saying that he has received calls, but as of Tuesday when he spoke at the combine, they hadn't really dove into that. But was asked about veteran quarterbacks and rookie quarterbacks and draft trades and everything. Here was Mike Borgonzi on the overall acquisition of needing more top 100 picks that have been a big deal for Titans brass so far this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the goal we stated to like I said, draft picks are our biggest form of currency. So, we're always going to try to gather as many picks in the top 100 as we can. But we have to be disciplined through the process here, as we're going through and looking at free agents and, possible trades. We certainly want to hold on to our draft picks as much as we can.
So, at the time, Matthew Stafford was available, right? We thought, kind of. The Rams were letting him talk to other teams to find out his value. So Derek Carr was still thought to potentially be available via trade, but Mickey Loomis said the Saints are rolling with Derek Carr in 2025. So there's another thought of, hey, do you want to trade something away to get one of these veteran quarterbacks so then you can trade the number one pick to not have to draft the quarterback? But that's just, they're not willing to trade picks away like they did a year ago with L'Jarius Sneed. That's why they don't have the third round pick this year. So there's a lot of interesting things there. Top 100 picks, they only have two of them, 1 and 35 overall. Then they don't pick until 102 in the top of the fourth round on day 3. So I think they want to move around. But like you said, it's being disciplined and not move back too far because every draft is unique. This one feels like there are 6 players that are like top 6, top 8, top 10 players. It's the 4 we've talked about plus Mason Graham out of Michigan and then Will Campbell, the tackle from LSU. Those guys feel like top 10 locks. Then there's 4 other spots that could go in a million different directions. And what happens if you fall back to 7 with the Jets? Are you going to miss out on all 6 of those guys? And then it's just a lot of personal preference for like the next 20 players? Or do you want to stay up in that top 6 or higher?
Well, the 2 great players that we know, Travis Hunter, great players and great prospects, is Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. Like, besides the quarterback position, yeah. Those guys are great prospects, right? Does that help your franchise for your team need? And I think that's the hardest question for this particular draft because these 2 quarterbacks, they're not just barn burners. They're plug and play guys. They're developmental guys. I mean, they are. They may not be as developmental as you were talking about Will Levis and Anthony Richardson before, right? These guys are going to have to develop over time. Now, the league does not allow talent to develop all the time, but and I saw a comment earlier in the chat talking about the Titans' lack of development, that they struggle to develop talent at the time. What does that come into play when you're drafting? Because I think Carter and Hunter, I'm not saying that they don't need development. I mean, every player does, but I feel like Carter could go sack a quarterback right now. I feel like Hunter can go pick a guy off.
Well, what is Travis Hunter going to play?
Well, in my opinion, Travis Hunter is going to be a cornerback and he's going to be a utility offensive weapon. I wouldn't be surprised, depending on the team that he goes to, they could dabble in punt returns every so often early in his career. I think they are going to use him as they should in multiple cases. The NFL is tough because you can always get hurt, always get injured. But I think he is in my opinion, he is a corner first. He is a plug wide receiver slot. You put him in the running back position, throw it to him out of the backfield. I mean, you can do the Deebo Samuel type stuff that we've seen in this league. And then he's a specialist, but he's a corner first in my opinion.
I would have thought that, but after the combine, I don't necessarily know that. I think, and look, that's what we're going to talk with Easton about. And I know Destin Adams went and interviewed, I think, 8 to 10 scouts and just asked, "Hey, Travis Hunter, wide receiver, corner, go." and the more said wide receiver than said corner. So I think it's very interesting to figure out how that continues to develop.
That's the team, right? The
no,
team
matters.
I think
that's the scout. I also think it, and I don't want to spoil things for the future, but what does Travis Hunter see himself as? A wide receiver or corner? Because I do know this: wide receivers make a lot more money than corners do. And if you're going to be one or the other, you can't be both. You can't be paid like both. You do one or the other. Wide receiver, being a primary wide receiver, gets paid a lot more than any of the corners. But we'll talk more about that throughout the week as well. Let's get to the trade, the biggest of the trade rumors that came out of Indianapolis throughout the week. We'll do that here in a second, but do want to tell all of you guys about our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know where you can turn because injuries happen in life just like in football. Last week, we found out Abdul Carter has a stress reaction in his foot. How does that play a part into this draft process? Apparently, he's not going to have surgery for it. We're working with the Bone and Joint Institute, trying to get an expert to talk about what a stress reaction means and what this could be for Abdul Carter now, his rookie season, and beyond. So we'll talk about them because they are the experts here in the Nashville mid-state area, in Franklin to be exact, right off of Highway 96 and I-65, with all of the resources under one roof. Book an appointment when you need them only, though. Boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports, make sure you give us a 5-star review, that Lou Man special. We're fighting fire with fire, trying to go from a 4.9 to a 5.0. The only way you do that is go on Google, search A to Z Sports, give a review, give us a thumbs up. That helps us tremendously as we grow our company. Like the show and subscribe. We talked about that at the beginning. Make sure you're locked in with alerts as well.
All right, so let's get to the biggest of the trade rumors that came out of Indianapolis, and that comes from the New York Football Giants. Art Stapleton, who covers the Giants, says here are 2 scenarios which he is pretty certain. The Giants will make a strong push that is ongoing through trade for Matthew Stafford. If the Giants don't get Stafford, I believe prior to the April 24th draft, they will trade up to number 1 with the Titans for their quarterback. And that is Art Stapleton, who was on this earlier, middle of the week. Obviously, Matthew Stafford stays with the Rams after talking and trying to figure out his overall value with the Raiders, meeting with Tom Brady in Montana, just bumping into him, just as one does at a ski resort in Montana. And then you also have the Giants conversation here. But the Giants at 3 overall feel like they are in the most desperate situation for a quarterback because Mara, the owner of the Giants, decided to not make changes at GM and at head coach. And so now you have Shane and Daboll fighting for their job. A couple years ago, those 2 guys were like, yeah, let's give Daniel Jones $40 million a year. And now Daniel Jones is a free agent looking for a new home. And that has not worked out. So the Giants are fairly desperate. If they don't get Stafford, which they did not, going back to the Rams, the Giants interested in moving up. And we've seen even last night, Art Stapleton came back out. So there's more feelings about the Giants wanting to trade up to number 1 overall. The Browns, it's coming out on ESPN.com, but the Browns feel like they are trending towards taking a quarterback at number 2 overall, but it's unknown which quarterback is their top preference. And so that's a big deal for the Titans overall. But the Giants, by far, the strongest momentum of a trade partner if the Titans are moving out of 1.
Well, if you trade there based on, again, the Browns, they have definitely trended to leaning towards that QB position. Now you're trading out of the quarterback position. If you're trading with the Giants, there is a probability that now you're not getting Shadour Sanders or Cam Ward, and that's the position you're going to in this draft.
If you decide that you want to trade, then you're trading out of the quarterback anyway.
Well, not necessarily, right? Let's say in this scenario, who knows what is going to happen with the trim. Cam Ward's, obviously his stock is going up, and Shadour's is either staying the same or maybe trending down a little bit because it's a 2-horse race. If the Browns end up going with Travis Hunter because of their situation with Deshaun Watson, and they're just trying to get the best player. Now you trade away your number 1 overall pick, but you also have an opportunity to get a quarterback, and you've received compensation for said pick, right? Or you are completely okay. Both 2 quarterbacks go 1-2, and you're going with Carter or Hunter no matter what. Or maybe you're trading back down. I don't know. I don't know what Borgonzi's. I don't know what he's got up his sleeve.
Yeah, and it's a long process. They have this split up into 3 phases. The combine was the end of phase 1. The 30 visits are about to be the start of phase 2 that they're starting this week. If the Titans trade out of number 1, then it tells me that they didn't think highly enough about Cam Ward. If they think highly enough about Cam Ward to want to pick him, but maybe they can get him at 2 or 3, then don't trade out of 1. Don't risk that. That's at least my opinion. If you want a quarterback, take the quarterback at 1 because you find them valuable enough to take them at 1. Don't risk that. So if they move back, it's because they don't want to go quarterback right now, which could be the case. They're still working that out. They don't know the answer to it. They've just gotten through phase 1 of their evaluation of the players. So I really feel like it's either they pick the quarterback at 1 or they trade out because they don't want a quarterback at all. And the Giants feel like the most likely trade partner at 3.
2 things. Matthew Stafford going back to the Rams was a huge benefit for the Titans because it took a player and kept them in the game of a possible trade like the Giants, right? Like
and
the
Raiders,
right? So like that was valuable. Do you think from going to 1 to 3, is there any way a future first-round pick can be involved in that?
I highly doubt it.
That's my stipulation.
I mean,
because you are now, I mean, it is a huge paradigm shift, Austin, from we are drafting our franchise quarterback to we're going with a defensive / offensive player if it's Travis Hunter, getting more picks, and the Titans are going to stink.
We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I know who it's not going to be. It's not going to be Will Levis.
Right. So now, but what I'm saying is your pocket of this offseason of picking a player to play the most important position in team sport is now down to 3 to 4 subpar, par to sub players.
I mean, I don't know. Like you cannot speak in any type of absolutes when you're talking about the draft, right? I think we know that, right? J.C. Latham was a top 10 pick last year.
I'm talking about free agency. Oh, so no. So then you're going to draft a quarterback later in the draft, or are you going to go for free agency?
Free agency,
right? And that is a lonesome pasture. There's not a lot of big time bulls out there.
No,
there's just not. And we know their ceilings too. We have tape on them.
Yeah, but you thought you had your tape on Baker Mayfield. You thought you had your tape on Sam Darnold, and those are guys that are rare but are coming more prevalent in the NFL is like the resurrection quarterback project, right? So,
but what do we know about those 2 guys? I think that's a great example. I'm glad you brought that up.
Ryan Tannehill is another one too.
Their ceiling is not Super Bowl. We know Baker Mayfield. Yeah, we all watched it 2 years ago, got to Detroit and lost in the divisional game. Sam Darnold, 14-game winner, stumbled, got beat by the Los Angeles Rams, not even in LA, in Arizona, where there were probably more Vikings fans than LA fans. So the ceiling, Ryan Tannehill, AFC Championship game, close but no cigar. So this game is pretty targeted and focused and understood. But you're going to go the other route if you do this, and you're going to have a lot lower ceiling. And the Titans have already experienced that.
But Zach, I think you're like skipping a step. Like the Titans are going to go from like they're not like just going to be Super Bowl contenders because they got the. I mean, if they think Cam
What did
Ward
I start
is
the show with, Austin? The Washington Commanders went from the number 2 overall pick to an NFC Championship game and now have Deebo Samuel. They just flipped the script. The Houston Texans did the same damn thing in a playoff appearance, right?
You know how the Texans did
tanked.
that? Because
yes, I do. I know.
No, they didn't just tank. Because yes, they did tank. They fired 2 coaches after 1 year.
The Commanders didn't tank, though. That's a good example.
No, but you know the Texans had a cheat code. It was the Cleveland Browns are completely idiotic and traded them so many things for Deshaun Watson and took that all off of the Texans' plate.
Well, Austin, that's why I asked you the question 5 to 10 minutes ago. Do you think that the Giants in this scenario to go from 3 to 1 is worth a future first round pick? Because Austin, if it is, I take the deal. And I'm perfectly okay with the Titans maybe not drafting a quarterback and going with the lower ceiling of Darnold or Jones or Levis, who cares? And you now have ammo for next year to sell to the fans, because the fans are important in this. They pay the bills. You can sell to the fans that you can pull off the trade up scenario with a better quarterback market in future years, like next year, and go get your guy. And you're not just settling for Darnold's ceiling in the divisional round.
I understand. You asked me a question. My honest opinion is I don't think moving from 3 to 1 is a future first rounder. What I think the Titans can get, I think they could get 3 day 2 picks. I think they could get there's the second round pick and the third round pick this year from the Giants and a second or third next year. Like, I don't think they're going to get a first round pick next year. So they have a chance to move back 2 spots. Again, they're only doing this if they decide that Cam Ward is not their guy.
For sure.
Right?
But I don't think that the discrepancy has to be that big. I know it's a franchise quarterback, but this should be the only time you pick number 1 overall, right? You shouldn't have to do this a lot.
Now they did it 8 years ago.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. You should have another 8-year gap at least before you get into this scenario. What my issue with this is, if you trade away the number 1 overall pick for a high second rounder future, you don't know what that is, because
I'm talking about this
that
year.
has to play that out. Well, you have to get future picks, because Austin, you cannot trade up to get your quarterback in future drafts without number 1 picks.
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, you can, but you can. The Giants would be doing it right now.
That's why I don't think you can.
But you can, Zach. It just depends on where your initial first round pick is. Like the Raiders at 6, the Jets at 7, that includes a future first rounder. The Giants are just 3 to 1.
Right, but the Titans, like most teams, if you're at the top, you're scared to go that far down the rung of the ladder, because you're not going to get the great prospects that you earned by losing all those damn games where the fans weren't in the stadium.
And look, Brian says, who's the Giants QB? Reason why number 1 is worth so much to the Giants. Look, I've got the trade calculator up on my computer just permanently because I'm so curious in this, right? So the difference in the first overall pick and the third overall pick is less than 600 draft points. And this is the Fitzgerald Spielberger evaluation chart. So it's 557 points is the difference in those 1 to 3. That is the value of the 120th pick, right? So if it's even, if you're going even points, then you move back from 1 to 3 for a 100th overall pick. But obviously we know that's not it, because you're coming up for a franchise quarterback. You can squeeze more of the Giants in that. But that's where I honestly feel like you're not going to get a future first. You're probably going to get a second and a third this year, and then a second or a third next year from the Giants. So that's 3 day 2 picks for moving back 2 spots, because you're deciding the quarterbacks aren't for you. And so what you do there is you move back to 3. You still get Carter or Hunter, or if Carter's gone to the Browns at 2 and Shadour's still there, you can move back again with a team like the Jets or the Raiders, and now maybe you get a future first rounder because there's one quarterback left and there's multiple teams that might want him. And so now you reset the draft at 3. So I am very interested in a trade down to 3 because of it has an opportunity for you to either get a top tier talent, one of the top 2 guys that are not quarterbacks here, or reset the draft at 3 and have the chance to move back again.
Well, and if you double trade, I mean, you got some rocks on you if you do that. And in those scenarios of what you just said, maybe that does make sense because you're trading with teams that are bad. Doesn't mean they can't flip the script, but that helps the future picks that you're attaining in those trades.
Yeah.
How, in that scenario, now just that we're on the topic, how far down are you willing to go?
If you double trade?
Yeah.
I mean, not past 7.
So 7 is your...
Yeah, it's Raiders or Jets because that, I mean, Saints are at 9. Like that could be like a kind of a sleepy team that would want to come up and get like Shadour, Sanders at 3 at this point. I don't think there's a difference in 7 and 9, to be honest. Like in this draft, there is no difference in pick 7 and pick 9. There is a difference between pick 6 and pick 7 and 6 and 9. 7 and 9 are basically the same.
Well, that's a lot of movement.
But Chad Brinker on 104.5 The Zone said they want 12 top 100 picks in the next 3 drafts. I think right now they've got like 8. So doing the double trade, like the trade that I'm talking about with the Giants already gives you 3 more.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do to a fan base, and you have to take care of your fan base because they take care of you. And since Vrabel left, honestly, to the tail end of Vrabel to what they are now, it's been a lot of bad football, and that will wear on fans. I mean, the chat knows this, that has been a long time. When was Vrabel's kind of demise start? That was,
I mean, if you want to be honest, it was the plane ride home from Green Bay on a Thursday night in November.
That bingo. That's a long time ago.
That would have been 2022.
That's a lot of bad football. And we're about to go into 2025, and you're now selling to your franchise that you're going to be bad again? Because they're not competing. If they do this, they're not going to be competing for a divisional game. Let's say that.
I mean, I'm not saying that. Like they might climb a rung of competition, but like they're not competing for the Super Bowl, for the AFC.
I know, but you're kicking a can. And what I'm saying is that now from that Thursday night in Green Bay to now a year from now is even longer. You're losing people. And I just feel like if you continue to do that for this market, that can be detrimental.
Yeah, but you know what also is bad too? Is trying to like duct tape it together and stay relevant when you should clean it all up and rebuild.
Well, I think the other philosophy is drafting Cam Ward. And we know today drafting a young quarterback is not as detrimental for the long term of a franchise as it was. It still hurts. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discrediting that. But your teams and franchises are much easier to move on from a top tier pick if he doesn't work out and start again, right?
Sure.
But you still sell the steam coming up from the fajitas, right? At least the fans salivate over those the hot onions and peppers and that sizzle. They still get that, and there's an opportunity that the tacos taste good.
No, look, again, if you believe in Cam Ward, you are not trading the pick. Like, that's simple. Zach, you said this.
You don't have a quarterback in this draft that I feel like you're going to be like, oh my gosh, we love this guy.
Yeah, but you can get, like, you've got 2 more months, right? Like, the draft is April 24th. Like, you just met Cam Ward for the first time last week, and from what I know, it went well. It was a good first meetup. Then he's going to be in town this week, and you're going to spend the whole damn day with him, or Sunday, or whatever it is. and you're going to meet up. You're going to go to his pro day. You're playing a home and home. He's coming to Nashville. You're going to Coral Gables. You're just working on this relationship, and you're going to have opportunities to like the guy and to feel good about the guy being that number one pick flyer that you're talking about. But if you don't pick Abdul Carter at 1. I think right now you pick Cam Ward at number 1 overall, or you get the hell out of it.
Well, that's what I mean. The first conversation I had, you cannot pick Abdul Carter number 1. I said that, I think, on however many.
No,
shows.
I think
we had that conversation. I said,
yes,
there's no way that, and now you're agreeing with me. I like that.
No, because there's trade interest. That's what I'm saying.
But of course there's going to be trade interest. They got the number 1 overall pick, and there's not we knew that months ago. There's not a clear-cut number 1 guy.
How many times has the number 1 overall pick been traded the last 10 years?
I mean, when there's not a clear-cut guy, it usually gets traded.
I mean, it didn't in 2013 and 2014, those back-to-back years. The Chiefs took Eric Fisher, and the Jags took Jokel. And quarterbacks were not very strong there. And those were quarterback-needy teams at the time.
Right, but that was also almost 10 years ago. And now we've seen what the quarterback position can do to a franchise and flip it. And the Giants want some of that. The Raiders want some of that. The Jets want some of that.
No, I
know.
The
Saints want some of that. And damn it, the Titans need some of that.
I still if the Titans cannot trade out of the number 1 overall pick, if they are absolutely stuck and they cannot move because they've lost all leverage for however that happens, I don't think it will. But if the Titans are stuck there, I still think it's Abdul Carter. And if they don't like the quarterback, right? And under that situation, if they
do that, I will be very disappointed.
I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just kind of going through the scenarios. If you don't like the quarterback and you can't get out of 1, you go Abdul Carter.
I don't think you can hate the quarterback. You can have questions about the quarterback, but Austin, if you stick and pick, you better stick and pick Cam Ward.
At this point, yes. Because I think if they
what are you just saying? You said Abdul Carter.
God, I'm going back to you brought up the first conversation that we had right after the season ended. That's what I was talking about.
So now you've changed.
No, I think.
I'm trying to clarify. I'm just trying to figure out what you're saying.
Okay, I will say it again. If the Titans don't like the quarterback, get the hell out, okay? If you can't get the hell out of number 1 and you don't like the quarterback, Abdul Carter is the pick. I don't think they're going to get stuck there, is my point.
You don't draft Abdul Carter number 1.
I agree. That's what I just said. But I'm saying in the rare situation that I don't expect that they can't move out of the pick, then Abdul Carter is the pick. Don't pick Cam Ward if you don't like Cam Ward.
And what I'm saying is they're never going to tell you that. They're never going to be – they're not in the position. Brian Callahan sure as hell not in a position. If I'm Brian Callahan and I have to pick Cam Ward, you have jobs.
No, he doesn't.
You just and you stated the Giants scenario, which is a perfect scenario, right? They have to have a quarterback. Their timer is about to go off, which means boom, everyone's fired. Brian Callahan's ass will be fired if they don't play well next year. It's guaranteed. I would rather go down with a quarterback. So you're saying, well, that would be a terrible scenario for Brian Callahan overall. And he has some say. He doesn't have all say. And I know that there's a hierarchy, and that's been established this offseason. But you cannot – if Brian Callahan got hired and had to deal with Will Levis and some free agent lower ceiling guy and they had the number 1 overall pick, that would be such a disservice to Brian Callahan as a coach.
No, I honestly think Brian Callahan has a safer job security if they don't pick a quarterback number 1 overall. Yeah, that's that.
This league has changed.
What are you talking about? If they pick, we have too many conversations that we need to have because we don't talk enough regularly. All right, so let's talk about this because we do have a question to get to you guys, and we just haven't had a reason to get to it yet.
Well, I want to say this because Joey said this. Callahan will get an extra year with a rookie quarterback.
I disagree.
See, I think you have a better opportunity of winning more games. You don't have to win a lot of games. You won 3. All you got to win is 6 or 7 with a rookie quarterback.
I disagree. I think if the collective brass of Brinker, Borgonzi, Callahan, and throw in Ziegler and Reggie McKenzie, the top 5 football minds that they have over there, if the collective group passes on a quarterback at number 1 overall, then I think it's understood that they're punting on the year of that, and they're just going to roll with Callahan for another year or 2. But if they draft,
no, that's
Zach,
the point.
hold on, time
If
out.
you
I'm not done.
find
I'm not done.
yourself
I'm not
losing
done.
games like you did, he's gone.
I'm not done. No, because I think if you draft the quarterback number 1 overall and you keep losing like you did, now the other 4 guys are going like, we can't let this coach ruin this quarterback.
Well, but at least you've gone down with the ship. If you have Cam Ward and you only win 3 games next year, you should be fired.
I think
that's okay.
Fans
can understand that.
Zach, let's just throw this out there. Let's say the Titans win 5 games next year. They're 5-12. 5-12 with a Cam Ward. I think Brian Callahan is more likely to be fired than a 5-12 with a journeyman veteran quarterback, because their expectations are different with the journeyman quarterback
like
going
Sam Darnold.
No, journeyman.
Sam Darnold's a journeyman. You want to go through his journey? Zach, he's played for He's a top tier pick.
So
he's been through multiple teams.
Stop. Not Sam Darnold, damn it. Okay.
Well, so now what scenario?
If you shut up, I'll tell you. If you shut up and stop interrupting me, I'll tell
ridiculous.
You. I'm a journeyman quarterback who's not Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's the top tier free agent quarterback. If they sign Sam Darnold and pay him $40 million a year and they go 5-12, of course he's fired. That's the same thing as a first overall draft pick. If you invest that type of capital in a quarterback and they go 5-12, Brian Callahan's out. If they go somewhere else, like a lower level, mid to low tier veteran to bridge the gap, literally bridge quarterback, then 5-12 is an understood gap in the process that they're trying to work on other things and go to next year, and they're more likely to keep Callahan. Does that not make sense? Am I taking crazy pills?
You just said journeyman, and I gave you an example of a journeyman.
I know, but then you're being stubborn and playing.
No, I'm not. But you gave a very specific scenario.
Zach, pay attention to this free agent.
What's another example? Is it Daniel Jones? Is that your example? Who else?
It's Jameis Winston, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, those type of guys. That's what I'm talking. Like, Zach, let's live in the now. Sam Darnold right now is not journeyman quarterback. He is viewed as the top guy on the open market, right?
He's still a journeyman. I mean,
come on, dude,
he is. I mean, you cannot
update your vernacular to now. Like last year, yes, but I'm talking about now. Like Sam Darnold's the top guy. He does not fit the journeyman thing anymore. Come on, this is ridiculous.
Does Baker?
No, Baker's on a contract. Baker's like a franchise.
He's still a journeyman quarterback overall. Like that is his career. He's gone through a journey. It's not. That does not matter. I still think Brian Callahan, I would rather go down with my quarterback and not draft Abdul Carter number 1 overall if you cannot trade. You do not do that. The only way you trade, and I've stated this, if you get a future first round pick, because that you have to show the fans
it's not gonna happen.
What
it's not realistic.
You have to show the fans though the future. And that's a hard sell without a quarterback. And we've seen what happens in this league. The picks are so valuable to go get your guy in the future. You have to have that pick. But you do not draft Abdul Carter number 1 overall. In any circumstance, you draft Cam Ward, in my opinion.
All right. Let's get to our question in our poll so we can update this and get the audience involved here now too. When would be the best time for the Titans to trade away this number 1 overall pick? When would be the best time for the Titans to trade away this number 1 overall pick? We have 3 options. We're saying before free agency, which would be like starting now over the next 10 days. By the way, the last time the number 1 overall pick was traded, it was 2 years ago. The Bears traded it to the Panthers on March 10th before free agency. So the last time it happened before free agency. The second option that we have is during free agency. So that's the second half of March and maybe early April. Then you have right before the draft. And that to me is like after tax day, right? It's like you're like 10 days within the draft. So the three options are before free agency, during free agency, and right before the draft. So those are the three options. I will start to put up a YouTube poll here in a moment, but going to tell you guys about our great sponsor, and that is the Bart Durham Injury Law. They do a phenomenal job at making sure that they're there for you and give you what you need when you need it at the worst time in your life, because usually it's after a car accident. A big truck wreck is Bart Durham Injury Law's fight for justice, and they can make sure they take care of you, and you deserve to get paid for what you go through. Bart Durham Injury Law has been in business since 1975. Check that math. That's 50 years. Started by the legendary great late Bart Durham, who passed in April. Now his son Blair Durham, who's been part of the show for a long time, is running the show. Marine veteran, great Nashvilleian, doing a lot of things behind the scenes in the community to help people out. That is the main goal of Bart Durham Injury Law, is to help people out. So if you need help with whatever that is, attorneys are always available for you to chat on their website, bartdurham.com, or to jump on a virtual call, meet in person. Their Capitol View offices are fantastic, and easy parking down there as well. So check them out online when you need them, bartdurham.com.
A to Z Sports. Make sure you like and subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a 5-star review on Google. The Lou Man 5-star special. Serve us up right on Google. While you put that poll together, I'm going to go to the comment section and see what the chat has to say. Here's the question. When would be the best time for the Titans? Before free agency, during free agency, or right before the draft? We go to the comments and scrolling back up. I also see a couple of nevers. Never have I ever right here. Never.
But when would be the right time, the best time, if they were to move off it, right? We understand that context.
Draft night right there from Jared. The day of from Trevor. We've got some nevers, so they're not really playing that game. After the pro days, so there's some context there from Eric. April 1st, so April Fool's Day right there from David. Trade before free agency. We've got some don't trade it. Draft day from Hill. Before free agency from Michael Snyder. Before free agency from Jay. You hold your cards. Let's see, draft night to get the King's ransom that we all hear about, even dating back from J-Rob, from John right there, right before free agency from I'm Good Love, Enjoy. Draft night from Fort Rico, after free agency from Sports Fans, no later than Why Does It Matter? Why does it matter? I think it matters a great deal. I don't necessarily understand that question from Greg. Right before the draft from C.W. Perry. So now he is, answering beginning of April. So I think we're scattered here on the answers. We've got right before the draft, right? We've got those right before they're on the clock, right before the draft, but we also have before free agency, like noon today from John. So
but again, free agency is 10 days away. March 13th is when that opens. And so that's when all of the official trades like the Deebo Samuel move and the other things go into effect.
Well, and Ann says, how the F do you trade back on draft night if you have presumably gotten a quarterback in free agency? This, I'm glad Ann brings this up, because this is why they came out and said they're going to sign a quarterback in free agency, right? Yeah. Like they got ahead of that per se. Now, at what tier? We talked about journeyman Sam Darnold a few minutes ago. Sam Darnold would have another journey for the Titans. That would be a different level of investment, right?
Correct.
Right? Daniel Jones is a different level of investment. Kirk Cousins, if that somehow plays, right? Jameis Winston, you mentioned Jacoby Brissett. Like, they're all different in, I think, what they represent if they're on the Titans. But what I think it's saying is Will Levis is going to be on the roster. Another veteran quarterback is going to be on the roster. At least this is what they've said. I don't. Will Levis could be a casualty. I'm not.
Fair.
100% on there. But Levis, veteran quarterback, and is it going to be a no-tier practice squad guy, or is it going to be the number one overall pick?
Yeah, so I think when I'm looking at the options, just to kind of reset this, is when would be the best time for the Titans to trade away the number one pick? Before free agency, during free agency, or right before the draft? In sales, you're always trying to find the right time to jump. Right? When do you up the ante? When do you make that right pitch move? Is when there's some type of momentum or a level of excitement or an urgency for something, right? And I think the right answer is during free agency, because and I'm going to be even more specific. I think the best time to trade it is right after Sam Darnold lands in wherever he's going to be. I think it's the Matthew Stafford domino was a positive one for the Titans because that kept one team who needs a quarterback still needing a quarterback. The next domino is Sam Darnold. When Sam Darnold lands somewhere, now it's if you want to compete, then you're going to have the number one quarterback, because there's a massive drop off in free agent quarterbacks from Sam Darnold to the next one. Was it like Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, the two Steelers guys? It's Aaron Rodgers. Like, nobody wants that, right? So there's a big gap. And so that's where I think that there's the next step to capitalize on some of that emotional reaction is Sam Darnold stays with the Vikings. Oh, now Browns want a quarterback at 2. The Giants need 1. Now the Raiders and Jets need 1. Now you've got a lot of ammo. And if the Raiders,
what if he goes to the Giants?
I don't think
I know. Again, but you're playing these scenarios.
The Giants, here's the good thing about the Giants. They can't pay the quarterback like that because they cut Daniel Jones and ate a bunch of money. Like, they're digesting all that money. And so they have to go rookie. And so that's where, if you have the Raiders or the Jets wanting and needing a rookie, that's competing with the Giants. And then we might find the Browns have to have a rookie. The Browns can't sign anybody. The Browns can't go afford Sam Darnold. So now you've got a rookie need at number 2, a rookie need at number 3, and a loser on the main vet at 6 and 7. So I think it's right after Sam Darnold lands wherever he is, ideally stays with the Vikings. That is the best time to trade it for the Titans.
So I think in a negotiation.
Let me add to that, because now the Titans can potentially make that move and then go address their quarterback with a veteran appropriately. Right?
Who's left?
We've been like, again, but you're understanding and you're admitting that you're going to sign a lesser than veteran to be your bridge starter.
But you can do
if
that.
You're trading away number 1.
I think you can do that without trading at that point in time. You hold on to this pick as long as you can. The art of negotiation is the side that cares least has the power. And I think the Titans in this scenario, they're doing all their homework early. They're assessing what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do. And I go back, maybe it was because I ate at a good Mexican restaurant over the weekend. It's about the sizzle. When those fajitas hit the table on draft night, people start doing weird things. They start giving up. When the war room does some things to franchises every single year, you wait till draft night because you're going to know more. I understand your philosophy, Austin. I get it. But I think that you can find a team that gets even more desperate and falls more in love with the prospect because it's draft night. The fajitas are on the table. And that's where I think that they make a move of, well, look, it's going to take a future first round pick to get up there. Now we've got competition. The Titans are doing the good sales job, not the bad sales job, and saying, we got 3 teams that we're talking to be honest. And a better scenario, we got to go a little bit further, but I would rather go down to 3, but it's going to take a future first rounder. That's where we're at. You can have Cam Ward. We're not drafting a quarterback this year. We're going to probably take Abdul Carter or whoever's left over from the first 2 picks. What do you say? And I think they're more willing to say yes on the phone on draft night than say yes after free agency or in the midst of it. That's my story. I'm sticking.
I mean, I just don't think that's going to happen. That's not how the number one.
But that's to answer the question. That makes the most sense. That's what they should do.
That's not what ever happens, though. Like I just said, the Panthers traded up to number one on March 10th.
I mean, what did the Texans do to get CJ Stroud?
They picked him at 2 where they originally had.
And what did they get? Will Anderson.
At 3.
Crazy things have happened.
That's completely that's different. You don't know.
They traded up to do back-to-back picks. Nobody in their mother saw that on draft night happening.
That's not the number one pick. We're not talking about the number 2 pick, the number 3 pick.
It goes to the point that draft night does emotions come into play.
Oh God, no, that's just a different situation. Like the second or third pick doesn't get moved until draft night because nobody knows what's going to happen at 1. The number 1 pick gets traded way before draft night.
But you get emotional on draft night. That's the point. And now the Titans are just sitting. Now they don't have the opportunity to get. I think. Look, I don't know where they are on Cam Ward. I think they're still in the process.
They don't know where they're on Cam Ward.
I can't predict. I think that they're in on him, or I don't know. I don't think they know, right? I think that's the process. But I don't think it's going to be a massive shift, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to hate him, but I don't think that they haven't fallen in love with him yet, right? So that's where I wait and wait and wait. And another team, and I think the Giants are that targeted team that are going to get desperado. Emotions are going to come into play. And Austin, the scenario that I keep saying is if you trade away from 1 to 3 and get a future first-round pick and you don't draft a quarterback, I think you've done a good job.
Okay.
That's the only scenario that I think you've done a good job without drafting a quarterback.
All right. Skip says, Austin, you're wrong. Zach is spot on. Well, I mean, no, because you can't compare.
Oh, Skip. Hey.
No, Skip is skipping a step here.
Skip, you're getting the love of the show, my man.
Monday,
we'll put the heart down for Skip.
Right.
I'm not skipping that.
Whatever. Never mind. All right. That's just not how trading the number 1 pick works. It's not. The last 2 times it's been traded in the last 9 drafts, it's been over a week before the draft. The number 1 pick does not get traded on draft night. The number 2 pick, the number 3 pick, all the other picks, those get traded on draft night when they're on the clock. You use the Texans trading up to 3 for Will Anderson as a reason for that.
To show an example of emotion.
It's apples and oranges.
I clarified. It's apples and oranges. To show the example of emotion. This year's draft is unique, wouldn't you say? Because of the top 4 prospects, 2 being quarterbacks in a quarterback-driven league that are not, bar none, the number 1 pick. You've got Abdul Carter with the foot situation. You got Travis Hunter, the Heisman winner, that plays multiple positions. This is so unique. You cannot sit here and say that never happens. It could happen. That's the point of my example of the Texans. Drafting a player at number 2 and number 3 overall had never happened before, correct?
Yes.
So going into that draft, if you sat there and said that crazy things happen, that's what the NFL draft brings out.
Apples and oranges. It's literally that. It's literally that. A comment Patricia asks, so why are y'all completely dismissive on Sanders and act like Cam is the only quarterback the Titans are interested in? Let me answer that question. Cam Ward is the only quarterback that's going to be drafted number 1 overall.
I would agree with that.
No, that's it. And Easton will talk more about it tomorrow. Cam Ward is the only quarterback that's going number 1 overall. And you can go read Easton's article, A2ZSports.com, that he put out last night. A lot of good stuff in there. I don't know what the percentage is. Maybe that'll be a question for Easton tomorrow, is what percentage chance does Cam Ward go number 1 overall? Not to the Titans, just in that slot, 1-1.
To clarify, that's what the off season is for, right? You find out more information pre-combine. You find out even more information during the combine. Then you have the days that they have scheduled visits. Then they've got pro days. It starts to get clearer overall and what teams prefer and not prefer. So the value of the combine is great. That's why we've seen Shadour Sanders. You didn't see Shadour, and this is probably, I don't know if his agent told him this, but like everybody wants to go number one overall. Shadour's going number one overall. The odds have got to be bad because that's just not where we are in the landscape and timeline of this draft. It's clearer now.
And we'll talk more about that tomorrow and get, Tall Texan is against Easton. Like, okay, man, like, cool. Like, like you can be against the information that's being gathered all you want, but you're talking to a lot of people at the NFL Combine where people are asking the Titans and Titans reporters, what are the Titans wanting to do?
But I think that's overall, I want to say it's widely known that Shadour Sanders is really probably not in play of the number one overall pick.
Yeah.
Like this has kind of come down to Cam Ward and trade.
Cam Ward, but who? Cam Ward, number one overall. Who picked him?
Well,
that's
early in the show. You said Abdul Carter number one if they don't fall in love.
So you listen to context, please?
I did listen. I've listened.
No, you clearly didn't. I said that it's I'm trying to work through different levels of conversation and scenarios. That way, if I'm the Titans, you have to have an answer for every scenario, whether it's the most unlikely scenario or not. And I would not, if I don't like Cam Ward and I don't like Shadour Sanders and I can't trade out of the number one pick, then Abdul Carter is my number one non-quarterback player. So in that situation that I do not think is going to happen, Abdul Carter would be the best pick.
What are your thoughts on the foot? Big deal, small deal, no deal?
I think it's a small deal, and we talked about that some at the end of the week when that came out, and it's something that I want more information on, which is why I'm trying to schedule a doc talk situation with the Bone and Joint Institute, because a stress reaction was a new term to me. It's like it's the pre-stress fracture. So does it just heal on its own? I don't know. I want to know that because that is important. And
it's not a Caleb Farley lower back.
No, it's very different. Like
it's not good.
From my own individual Google research, it's always dangerous when it gets medical. It's supposed to just heal with rest. But I want to talk to an expert about that.
Just in this, are you Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter or Travis Hunter over Abdul Carter?
I am for the Tennessee Titans. I'm Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter, assuming health.
Yeah, and I think they wrote that on the wall with Harold Landry being available to seek trade.
Didn't matter. Nope, didn't matter. Irrelevant. The Titans aren't. Harold Landry's been off the team since the season ended. Like the Titans were never.
They didn't trade him at the deadline.
No, Harold Landry, and we talked about this last week too. Harold Landry was not going to be a Tennessee Titan as soon as locker room cleanout day was over.
But that Abdul Carter is their need. You have a top prospect that has.
If you decided to keep Harold Landry, then you still need Abdul Carter. like that's just the case.
In their cornerback room because of what they've done over the last season.
I don't necessarily think. I don't know what the Titan. I know Brian Callahan said he would start him at corner, but I don't know. I think Travis Hunter views himself as a wide receiver, and I think more NFL teams view him as a wide receiver than corner.
Well, the Titans need a wide receiver.
But Callahan said they view him as they would start him at corner. So it's interesting. But yes, I would go Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter for sure.
I need a foot specialist before I'm.
That's what I'm trying to get our guy Dr. Watson on. We're trying to work on timing for that. Everybody's got busy schedules these days. Spring break.
That's another reason. And going back to this scenario, and I'll keep beating on it. Cam Ward is number one overall. I think Abdul Carter's foot is a deterrent for me to take him number one overall. I don't think you're going to hate Cam Ward. I don't think you're not in that scenario. You're in we question Cam Ward or we like him enough to draft him number one. Sure. So that's why I'm taking your scenario out. I don't think it is a scenario.
I literally said it's the most unlikely scenario to happen at this point, but that's how I feel.
I'm saying it's not a scenario. I think at this point of what we know, it is Cam Ward. There is some slight questions or the Titans are in love with him and they'll draft him.
I guess what I was walking through that scenario to tell you that Abdul Carter is the only non-quarterback that I think is worthy of the number 1 overall pick.
That's how you position it now, which it makes sense. That's not what it was positioned before.
Okay. So. It was the same thing. It was just a different conversation. All right. So let's update the poll. Then we got a couple super chats to get to before we wrap this thing up with the age game. When would be the best time for the Titans to trade away the number 1 pick? The 3 options we have before free agency is at 21%. During free agency, which was my answer, which I haven't voted yet on the poll. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and boost that maybe a little bit. All right. Got a percentage. The during free agency is 20%. Now before free agency is 20%. And right before the draft is at 59%. So
power to the people. Skip. Hey, you didn't skip that one. That was good.
Oh, God. Skip doesn't know what he's talking about.
59. I mean, that was a runaway. I mean, because I think it's, you hold on to it. You get the people hungry. You get their mouths watering. Oh,
the dates, the last 2 times the number 1 pick was traded, March 10th and April 14th. So that's when it happened. I don't think the Titans would trade it away in the month of March. I think it's like early April is when the Titans would likely pull the trigger.
I think the free agent market changes that though, Austin, because the players, you're going to get a veteran quarterback that fits the mold, regardless on if you're going to go forward with the veteran quarterback without a rookie or with a rookie. So that's why that doesn't matter. Sam Darnold, if you've taken him off the table, which you did in that scenario, everybody below, you could do it either way. That's why you looking at history is different. The players are different in this year. That's why I say is you have the ability to wait till draft night because of this free agency quarterback market.
Maybe. I don't believe that, but that's okay.
Why?
Because that's not how the number 1 pick gets dealt. Draft, they don't wait until draft.
You're going back to this is what happens all the time. I'm talking about this year. I'm talking about this year.
I understand.
You signing a veteran quarterback that's not Sam Darnold does not change your position on draft night or before.
I'm not talking about the Titan position. I'm talking about the other positions. Like I think you can do that and react when Sam Darnold and increase desperation. I think you can make an opportunity for
those other quarterbacks besides Sam Darnold don't fix the problems of the other franchises either.
I understand.
So that's why I'm saying is it's the same. That's why the chat got this correct.
If it does happen, it will be before draft day.
That's a prediction of what you think is going to happen. I'm saying what should happen. There's 2 different questions.
That's fair. That's fair. Super chats. Kane comes in, says, you take a QB. Carter is as good as Garrett. Carter is as good as Garrett. And look how that generational talent flipped the Browns. A QB will turn a team around faster. Yeah, but a bad quarterback does you nothing. That's assuming the quarterback is worthy. And we don't know that yet.
But I get where Kane is coming from.
I mean, yes.
You'd rather take a swing. That's where I stand. I'd rather take a swing that is not as detrimental as it was in years past in NFL history, go back to history, than going with Carter, which is the Myles Garrett comp, and the quarterback will get you to the promised land quicker. Who
disagrees with that?
So, but what Kane is saying is take a swing there and don't take a swing there.
So Kane thinks the Browns should have drafted Mitch Trubisky. Okay, sounds good. That's what he's saying, right? Kane?
When
that draft.
When was Trubisky?
2017 draft. Garrett went 1, Trubisky went 2. So there you go, Kane. That would have done so much for the Cleveland Browns. But guess what? The Cleveland Browns have been in the playoffs a couple times with Myles Garrett. They got Baker the next year. That worked until it didn't. Then they made a move for Deshaun Watson, and then Joe Flacco got in the playoff. So, Kane, your point is irrelevant. Everybody agrees with that if the quarterback is there. So
right. And I think Kane's premise is he's willing to take the hit or the miss at quarterback.
I don't think so.
Because, if you hit, it's a game changer. That's kind of, I think that's the philosophy of today's age.
How many times have the Bears made the playoffs since Mitch Trubisky was drafted versus the Browns?
Right, but
2-0.
This is the number 1 overall pick, and now the Bears have swung at Caleb Williams, right? So, that's their swing. The Titans have swung at Vince Young, Marcus Mariota, Jake Locker, right? Those have been their 3 big swings in the top 10 at quarterback. All 3 have missed based on what our expectations are from a top-tier quarterback, right?
Sure.
They still have the same amount of Super Bowls, right? 0. So that's why you swing. You've seen teams swing and hit.
Again,
that gets you start to compete.
I think the Browns are fine with their decision to draft Myles Garrett and not over Mitch Trubisky. I think they're okay with that. Kick of the King super chat says Giants in Vegas and others have same holes as the Titans. Why should they have the potential franchise QB instead of the Titans? Suckers if you don't get a quarterback. Again, you can't assume that the Titans like the quarterback. Just like we just talked about. The Browns didn't like Mitch Trubisky and needed a quarterback, but the Bears did. So the Browns went with Garrett, the Bears went with Mitch Trubisky, and results are in. The Panthers like Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. We don't know if the Texans like Bryce Young over CJ Stroud either. What would have happened if the Panthers went Stroud and the Texans got Bryce Young? Quarterback evaluations are different. You can't just assume that everybody likes the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that they're not going to hate Cam Ward. That's my premise.
I don't think they're going to hate either of these guys.
Well,
Shadour or Cam.
It's Cam, right? I mean, that's where they're at. Is Shadour justified? All right, this is the last scenario before we go to the age game.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start there. In what world could they draft Shadour Sanders? Not number 1, because we agree that Cam Ward's going number 1 overall, right? So what is a scenario that the Titans draft Shadour Sanders? I think that's a good question.
Off the top of my head, so don't grill me for it.
Yeah,
I'm workshopping this, right? I'm not talking about you grilling me. I'm talking about the chat grilling me for this. At 6 or 7. If the Titans move back to 6 or 7 and the Raiders or Jets, whoever that is, comes up and gets Cam Ward number 1, and the Browns don't want Shadour, they draft Hunter. The Giants. I know. That's where I don't know. That's what makes me think it's almost not possible because the Giants.
Here's my scenario. They trade with the Giants and the Browns don't draft a quarterback. But then somebody else is probably going to jump.
The Titans are not going to draft Shadour at 3.
We're trying to find scenarios.
I don't think that would happen.
Well, now you've gotten a quarterback that you've obviously valued over Cam Ward because that's what this scenario would.
I don't think the Titans are drafting Shadour. I think there's.
I know. I just wanted to throw that out.
Because why would they draft Shadour Sanders when I know Cam Ward is the only one worth number 1? Why would they just not take Cam Ward at 1 if they're going to end up somehow taking Shadour Sanders at 6?
Future pick depends on what they get back. Again, the key catalyst is
the quarterback they like better.
The biggest topic of this year's draft is what the Giants are willing to give up.
Sure.
It's singular.
And
it should be, for the Titans scenario, a future first-round pick.
Patrick says, why not Austin? You're so negative on Shadour. No, I like Shadour Sanders. I have not been negative on him at all. I've propped up Shadour Sanders. I think his personalities, I think he's a very impressive person. From all the opportunities that he's had to just be a spoiled brat, he hasn't done it. And I give him so much credit for that. I'm not negative on Shadour Sanders. I just know the Titans think that Cam Ward's better. And so if you think Cam Ward's better and you're not going to pick Cam Ward, then why would you pick Shadour Sanders? That's not logical.
Yeah. We're down to Cam Ward or trade.
Yes. Yes.
Big week this week when Cam Ward comes to town.
Yes. Massive.
Because I thought, real quick on that, I thought when Will Levis went to the facility and talked to Vrabel that was a turning point on why they did what they did. It didn't work out. Obviously, we know that. So in-person facility, I think, is big. How do you carry yourself walking through the halls? How do you interact with the cafeteria staff? I mean, these are all things that I'm trying to diagnose because this is a culture pick, you know? So this is a big week for the Titans.
Yeah. And look, Mike and Caps are asking, how do you know the Titans like Cam Ward more? Because I know the Titans like Cam Ward more. Because we just had 7 people for A to Z Sports in Indianapolis for 6 days.
Trust us when we tell you it's down to 2 scenarios. Trade or Cam Ward.
I've had so many phone conversations with people that were in Indianapolis over the last 6 days. The Titans think Cam Ward's the better quarterback prospect. I'm not, again, he says like, trust us, bro. All good. I just can't tell you everything. I can tell you what I've learned and what I think I know, but that's what the scoop is. And Easton will talk more about that tomorrow because he's got more than I do. So, all right, Zach, it is now time for the age game. It is your turn to wait. I think I have one more super chat. Kane would have the Browns, Watson, not Mitch. Okay, there we go. So got that taken care of. All right, so it's your turn to give me a person for the age game. But real quick, Wilson County Hyundai. That's where you should turn. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where you can save money on that new ride in Lebanon. Not just spending all the extra Nashville downtown prices, but Lebanon, Tennessee is where to go for WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I have the chat hidden. Zach, hit me with the age game.
Easy. I know you haven't Googled this because you didn't watch it last night. I watched about maybe 4.5 seconds. How old is Conan O'Brien? Conan O'Brien hosted the Oscars last night. Again, I was 4.5 seconds in and then I turned it. But Conan O'Brien, I thought that was a weird pick for host. It's kind of like an oldie. Like I didn't know where Conan has been. I know how old he is now, but how old is he?
Conan O'Brien's been hosting the same show for like decades, right?
I don't watch it. I used to, right? Like when it was Letterman, Leno, and Conan, that wasn't a bad time as that was right before we transitioned to nobody watching late night shows. Or I feel like late night shows going extreme political. I felt like that was the show.
It was just now just like SNL, like side topic as I try to brainstorm how old Conan is. All those shows are just better on social media, so you just watch the good parts to go viral instead of the whole thing.
They don't make as much money on that.
Yeah, right. Conan. Man, he's not 60. But he's been around for so long because it's 2025. He's been around for a bit. You don't get those jobs until you don't get those jobs in your 20s. I'm going to say Conan O'Brien's 58. Final answer.
58. He's locked it in. Let's go to the chat. The first guess is 43. I think Mr. Robinson Neighborhood just threw out a number. He was first, but that is too young. Let's see here. 64 from Caps. That's a cap. He is not 64. 62. That's wrong. 63. That's wrong. You guessed 58. 67, that's wrong. 57 from Curtis is too young.
Oh, God.
Mike Pett. Mike Pett. 61. Ding, 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 ding. 61 is the correct answer. So Mike Pett, I don't know if Mike has gotten on the board. 61. That was fairly close.
Didn't look a day over 58, in my opinion.
Well, I feel like he's got to dye his red hair because he has to stay red.
Yeah, he's got to be the caricature has to live on, right? you gotta die into the bit. Man, that's tough.
I'm gonna have to move some things around because
Yeah, you got a lot of names on that list.
we got a lot of names, and we also have an asterisk from Cost 66. Mike Peck,
Whatever Trick Daddy, unknown age.
yeah, could not confirm or deny. So, way to go, Mike. He's on the board.
All right, is the board coming up here?
Well,
Yeah.
I see. I'm making graphics live on air is tough. It's like doing math.
I was about to say which is harder, math or graphics?
Math.
Ah,
So the board is loaded, and there you go. Mike Peck, a little slightly over Curtis because I kind of just put it together.
Oh, but you're covering up. Where's the asterisk? The cost moved over there. Okay.
Yeah, I had to move costs. Again, this is quick on the fly. Titans Kyle at 5 times, as does Brock Kraft, Anthony Malley at 4 times, Orlando Jones at 4 times, but Mike Peck is on the board. There you go.
All right. That's it for us. Look, great content still coming your way all over A to Z Sports social media, A to Z Sports.com. Easton working on a lot of different follow-up reporting from the NFL Combine. He'll be on tomorrow morning, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Buck Rising, who was also at the NFL Combine last week, will have prime time again tonight, so make sure you hit that up. Make sure you also like the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also give us that 5-star Google review, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning on a Tuesday. Appreciate it as always.
Adios.